This is part 2, episode 138. Xiao Yan's eyes focused on the jade-white rib cage. His mind had churned violently because of that shocking thought. Those 10 scrolls are all used to confuse people. The true treasure is actually on this skeleton. No wonder that old ghost Xiao Yan insists on attacking. It is because he is aware that the treasure is hidden on this skeleton. A thought hurriedly lingered on Xiao Yan's heart at this moment. He finally understood why old ghost Xiao Yan would actually go all out and fight with this Doshing skeleton, despite his cautious character. What a cunning old ghost. Xiao Yan laughed coldly within his heart. The flickering glow in his eyes was swiftly withdrawn. The purple-brown flame on his hand hovered over it once again. His palm was subsequently thrown out in a lightning-like fashion. Each palm violently landed on the rib cage of the Doshing skeleton. Under the frighteningly high temperature, the scarlet color that was present on the bones also swiftly disappeared. By sweeping his gaze over it for a moment, Xiao Yan discovered that not every bone had the kind of mysterious characters. It appeared that only a couple of ribs near the abdomen had this kind of character. There are 3 ribs that possess this kind of characters. An excitement that was difficult to discover danced within Xiao Yan's eyes. He was certain that the characters on these 3 ribs were definitely the real Qian class Do technique. Xiao Yan did not dare to stay still for long after gaining an understanding of the situation. He was afraid that others might see through it. Immediately, silver glow flashed under his feet as he narrowly dodged the blade-like sharp fingers of the skeleton. Everyone, put in more effort. This skeleton is about to be unable to endure any longer. Old ghost Xiao Yan looked at the increasingly faint scarlet color on the skeleton's body. A great joy involuntarily flashed across his face as he cried out loud. The others acted as though they did not hear anything in the face of his words. This skeleton was extremely troublesome to deal with. Its ability to resist attacks could only be described as perverse. This seemingly weak skeleton was able to endure against so many attacks from the combination of the 5 of them without showing any signs of cracking. If it was not because of the increasingly faint scarlet color that indicated that their attacks still had some effect, it was likely that even they would lose their confidence. Bang bang bang. The vast and mighty Do Chi was just like a falling star, as it tore through the sky and heavily exploded on the body of the Doshing skeleton. A frightening strength shook the unusually hard and firm large hall until numerous arm-thick crack lines were formed. Under the wild and fierce attacks by Xiao Yan's 5-men group, the scarlet color on the Doshing skeleton became increasingly faint. The red glow in its eyes was leaping in an increasingly intense manner. At this moment, his body had also suddenly stiffened. Old ghost Xiao Yan and the others were startled when they saw that the Doshing skeleton had suddenly ceased moving. Immediately, they grabbed this opportunity. A storm-like attack continuously poured downwards. Xiao Yan's heart also became a little uneasy when he was unleashing his attack. An elite Doshing was far too powerful. Even a trace of remnant spiritual imprint would likely not be finished off in such an easy manner. Quick, leave the hall. Xiao Yan suddenly turned his head and transmitted a voice in the direction where Little Fairy Doctor's group was at. The latter, who received this transmission, were startled. Before they could inquire anything, the entire group had already swiftly pulled back. Roar! Frightening attacks blasted apart on the surface of this Doshing skeleton's body like fireworks. It paused for a moment before suddenly lifting its head. A somewhat vague low and deep hoarse voice appeared to be quietly emitted from the ancient times. Great Heaven! Creation! Palm! A hoarse and ancient halting sound was transmitted into Xiao Yan's ear. It caused all the hair on his skin to suddenly stand up. A kind of extremely dangerous feeling spread apart from deep within the soul. Being driven by the horror of facing death, Xiao Yan had basically turned around almost instantly. Silver light flashed under his feet as he went all out to rush towards the distance. It is using a Do technique, withdraw quickly. While Xiao Yan had turned around and fled, Tang Jin and the rest had also discovered something unusual. A shocked expression surged up their faces almost instantly. After which, they could not be bothered about anything as they hurriedly turned around and fled like mice. Bastards! The face of old ghost Xiao Yan turned green when he saw Tang Jin and the rest fleeing almost instantly. He cursed furiously. While he cursed, however, his fleeing speed was also not the least bit slow. He had already fled over 100 meters with a flash. Xiao Yan's group, which had suddenly fled in a miserable manner, also stirred the attention of everyone in the large hall. Although they were unaware of what happened, they understood that it was definitely something really bad. Immediately, they clawed and rolled as they hurriedly pulled back. In an instant, the entire large hall had once again become extremely chaotic. During the time when the large hall was in a chaos, the scarlet color of the Doshing skeleton's body appeared to have become alive. It completely gathered on the skeleton's hand. In an instant, it had already dyed the right hand until it appeared to have been immersed in blood for countless number of years. It was so dark and deep that it caused one to feel a chill within one's heart. Raw. When the final trace of blood gathered onto the right palm, a soybean-sized black dot suddenly appeared at the palm of the Doshing skeleton. This black spot was really of an extreme pure black. If one was to glance at it, even one's soul would appear to be swallowed into it. It was extremely strange. The Doshing skeleton suddenly raised its hand when the black-colored small dot appeared. After which, it smashed heavily on the incomparably hard ground of the hall. The stone floor did not emit any sound when the bone palm landed. The moment it made contact, the incomparably hard stone floor instantly disappeared, revealing the deep brown color rock under it. The ground disappeared. A black light circle suddenly surfaced from the stone floor. After which, it suddenly spread. The black light scattered. Countless number of people immediately became extremely shocked. Regardless of whether it was the stone floor, the stone pillar, or any other thing, any place where the black circle reached would disappear. It had truly disappeared. Not even a little of it remained. This kind of feeling was just like a black hole, appearing mysterious and frightening. Quick, run. The frightening scene caused everyone to feel their skin become numb. This was especially the case when they saw that the black light circle was still continuing to spread. Their hearts had all become tensed as their bodies hurriedly withdrew. They ran quickly, but the spreading of the black light was even quicker. The thing that was even more shocking was that the interior of the light circle had erupted into an extremely frightening suction force. Some of the experts that were caught off guard had directly been forcefully pulled until they flew out. They disappeared when they touched the black light circle, and did not even leave any dregs behind. The sharp miserable cry sounded one after another within the large hall. In an instant, numerous human figures began to struggle wildly within the midair. However, they were unable to resist that suction force. Finally, they were absorbed into the black light circle and annihilated. Xiao Yan's heart became numb when he heard the continuously miserable scream appearing. This kind of Do technique was definitely of the Tien class. Xiao Yan's figure, which was rushing explosively, suddenly paused. His expression also suddenly changed. The suction force from behind was becoming increasingly frightening. It was already sufficient to affect his speed. Xiao Yan clenched his teeth tightly. His speed had been unleashed to its limit at this moment. Purple-brown flame lingered over his body. There were some repeated miserable screams continuously appearing in front of him as human figures flew out in an uncontrollable manner. The miserable screams from imminent death caused the hearts of everyone who heard them to feel a chill. The black light circle was just like a death god after one's life. It swiftly spread from the large hall. The entire large hall was also completely annihilated at this moment. The suction force is becoming increasingly strong. We must escape. Otherwise, we will definitely be sucked into it. Xiao Yang suddenly clenched his teeth as he sensed the increasingly strong suction force from behind. He actually forcefully turned his body around. Flame-splitting tsunami. Open mountain seal. Sea-flipping seal. Numerous unusually fierce attacks rushed out from Xiao Yang's hand. After which, it shot out violently. With the help of this thrust, Xiao Yang's figure also rushed backwards swiftly. However, these attacks that had shot out automatically disappeared when it spread to the black-colored light circle. The latter's spreading rate was not even halted for an instant. 3,000 lightning illusory body. Xiao Yang's hand seal changed once again. A spiritual avatar directly appeared in front of him. After which, he violently swung his feet onto the shoulders of this avatar. Under the push force, Xiao Yang's body immediately emitted a swoosh sound as he finally shot out of this large hall and heavily landed on the square outside. That avatar crushed onto the black light circle under the opposite push force and was quickly destroyed. Screech. After Xiao Yang escaped and rose upwards, the black-robed old man a short distance behind him also suddenly let out a sharp cry. His entire body shook, as he transformed into a 10 feet large heaven demon phoenix. Both of his wings were flapped and he finally escaped from that frightening suction force. After which, he rushed out in an extremely miserable manner and collided violently on the corridor outside. Tangzhen, Binghe Zunja, Old Ghost Jiaxing and the rest also staked their own lives and raised their speed to their limits when Huang Xian began to go all out. Finally, they charged out of the large hall at the last moment and miserably landed on a square. Everyone outside of the large hall were extremely frightened as they looked at the strange black light circle that spread within the hall. Fortunately, the latter had gradually halted when it had reached the edge of the square. Finally, it slowly disappeared in front of the gazes from the numerous survivors. After the black light circle disappeared, 1,000 feet large big deep hole appeared in front of everyone's gazes. At this moment, the spacious main hall did not even have the least bit of dross remaining. Xiao Yang swallowed a mouthful of saliva. He wiped off the cold sweat on his forehead. He had really sensed death earlier. It was likely that even if Old Ghost Jiaxing and the others were to meet with the black light circle earlier, they would also definitely end up dying. Xiao Yang inhaled a couple of deep breaths. He suppressed the great storm within his heart as his eyes paused on the mid-air within the large hall. A jade-white skeleton was standing in the mid-air. The red glow within its eyes had completely disappeared at this moment. Clearly, the remnant spiritual imprint left behind by that elite Do Xing had also completely disappeared at this moment. Tian class Do technique. Xiao Yang's eyes stared intently at the jade-white skeleton. A shocking heat suddenly erupted from his eyes. During the time that Xiao Yang's breathing had become heavier, because of the Do Xing skeleton, Old Ghost Jiaxing on the square also revealed a wild joy that could not be hidden on his face. The residue spiritual imprint that the elite Do Xing had left behind also completely disappeared. Currently, this skeleton no longer possessed any offensive abilities. Although his heart understood that the bones currently did not possess any danger, Old Ghost Jiaxing did not immediately act despite being filled with anxiety due to the frightening palm from earlier. "Are you all right?" Xiao Yang stood up from the ground. Little fairy doctor's group hurried over and asked in a worried manner. Xiao Yang smiled and shook his head. He saw that those in front of him were not injured and his heart sighed in relief. "Fortunately, you have warned us in time. Otherwise, the result will be unpredictable." That palm from the Do Xing skeleton was really too frightening. It was likely that no one here could receive it. Tian Huazunja's eyes had some shocked expression. It was the first time that he had seen such a frightening Do technique. This should be the legendary Tian class Do technique. Moreover, this was the destructive force created by a residue soul that the elite Do Xing had left behind. If it was to be unleashed by a genuine elite Do Xing, it was likely that the large hall would not be the only thing that disappeared. Instead, it would be the entire remains or even half of the Bone Mountain range. Little fairy doctor spoke softly. Xiao Yang nodded. He had personally experienced the strength of this thing. If it was not because he had reacted quickly earlier, it was likely that he would be turned into a powder-like existence after having been absorbed into the black light circle. He, quite a number of people here are unlucky. Ziyang laughed quietly in a somewhat gloating manner. Xiao Yang's eyes swept over the square, and did indeed discovered that the originally large crowd currently only had a few people remaining. Moreover, most of these people, who had survived, had a horror that covered their faces. Cold sweat soaked their clothes. These people could really be considered to have been completely frightened. Unfortunately, those scrolls have also been destroyed. Qinglin spoke in a somewhat regretful manner. The treasure in this place is not those scrolls. Instead, it is that Do Xing skeleton. Xiao Yang smiled. His fiery hot eyes looked towards the jade-white skeleton that was suspended on the enormous deep pit. The skeleton not only hid the Tian class Do technique on it, but its body itself possessed a shocking amount of allure. Anything left behind by an elite Do Xing were all top-tier treasure. Most of those who has survived until now are experts with some abilities. However, it is fortunate that they were all injured. From the looks of it, the strength of our side is the preserved most completely. Tian Huazunja spoke softly. Xiao Yang smiled slightly and softly said, "There is no need to hurry. Someone will eventually act from impatience." Little fairy doctor's group was startled when they heard Xiao Yang's words. His gaze glanced towards the direction where Old Ghost Jiaxing was located. He could see that this old ghost current had a face with a wild joy that could not be hidden. "This damn thing has killed so many experts from my Hall of Soul. Today, the old me shall act and turn the skeleton into dust. Old ghost Jiaxing suddenly stood up, when the eyes of little fairy doctor's group glanced over. He cried out in a righteous manner. After which, his body moved, transforming into a blurry figure that rushed over towards the Doxing skeleton in the air above the deep hole. Humph, do you really treat us as fools? We have scattered the residue soul within the Doxing skeleton, after much hard work. Will we allow you to gain such a great reward? Huang Xian, Tangzhen and Binghe Zunja let out a cold snort when old ghost Jiaxing's body moved. With their eyesight, they were naturally able to tell that this Doxing skeleton was extraordinary. How would they allow old ghost Jiaxing to obtain such a treasure for no reason? The three of them moved their bodies at the same time when their cry sounded. With a couple of flashes, they had caught up with old ghost Jiaxing. Each of them threw a palm towards the air. The frightening wind directly tore three dark black crack lines in the air. The fierce attack that rushed over from behind also caused old ghost Jiaxing's face to change. The strength of Feng Xian's group was similar to his. Currently, the three of them had attacked together. How could he forcefully receive it? His body twisted strangely and a couple of afterimages appeared in the mid-air and narrowly dodged the three wind. Their speed also ended up being reduced. Huang Xian and the two others rushed out after having blocked old ghost Jiaxing. After which, they flew over the latter's head. Their large hands directly grabbed onto the Doxing skeleton in a violent manner. Bastards, you are seeking death. Old ghost Jiaxing's face was filled with fury when he saw this scene. The feelings from having joined hands earlier had already completely vanished. His hand grabbed across the space and a suction force erupted from it. It had actually directly styled the three figures in the mid-air for an instant. He also took the chance to flash his body. He took a step forward ahead of the others, grabbed with his large hand and caught an arm of the Doxing skeleton in the process. Before he could pull with his strength, however, an incomparably sharp wind violently hacked towards his head from behind. Upon sensing this sharp wind from behind, the hand of old ghost Jiaxing, which was grabbing onto the Doxing skeleton, was suddenly swung. He directly used a skeleton to block his back. It was forcefully being used to block the palm wind from Huang Xian trio. Bang! Powerful wind exploded on his bones. A strong force shook old ghost Jiaxing until he was being forced back. However, with the defense of the skeleton, he was not hurt. The wild joy on old ghost Jiaxing's face became increasingly dense as he grabbed the Doxing skeleton. He did not say anything as he held the skeleton and fled. You wish to escape? A ghost-like figure appeared in front of old ghost Jiaxing just as he turned around. An enormous ruler that was accompanied by a fierce wind directly hacked viciously at him. Clang! The heavy ruler hacked onto the skeleton. Numerous sparks erupted. Xiao Yan's arm was also shaken until it became numb. Fortunately, that force also shook old ghost Jiaxing until he took a step back. At this moment, Huang Xian trio had once again caught up. They similarly remained silent. However, Do Qi violently attacked the fatal spots all over old ghost Jiaxing's body in an extremely ruthless manner. Everyone on the square was stunned as they looked at the five people who had suddenly ended up in a life and death battle because of a skeleton. With their eyesight, they were naturally able to tell that every strike from these people were ruthless. Clearly, they intended to kill the other party. It looks like that Doxing skeleton is the treasure. Otherwise, it will not cause experts like old ghost Jiaxing to go all out to snatch it. Those who could still survive after experiencing the various danger were naturally not some ordinary character. They understood the reason with just the blink of an eye. Immediately, his eyes flickered. Some of the bolder individuals involuntarily stood up and showed signs of intending to intervene. Humph, I advise those whose strength has yet to reach that of a 3-star Dozun to forget about such thoughts. When these fellows were about to act, the experts from the Heaven Demon Phoenix tribe, Ice River Valley and the Burning Flame Valley stood in front of the large pit with icy cold expressions. Powerful aura spread swiftly. The faces of quite a number of people changed slightly upon seeing this. The combined strength of these few large fractions possessed quite a powerful strength. Even though they had some skills, they were unable to finish off all of these factions. Moreover, there was still a couple of genuine top expert in the mid-air. Even if they could charge over, it was likely that they would be unable to fight with them. These people could only shake their heads unwillingly when they thought of this in their heart. They abandoned the greedy thought within his heart. Natural treasures were things obtained by those with ability. They were only a source of trouble for those without any ability. Little fairy doctor's group sighed in relief when he saw that these fellows were deterred. They similarly did not wish for anyone else to intervene in the fight for the skeleton. Should that occur, it would only end up causing the situation to be even more chaotic. Old Ghost Jiaxing appeared quite miserable when he was surrounded and attacked by the three experts with similar strength. Old Ghost Jiaxing was also quite miserable. After enduring for over a dozen exchanges, he finally began to feel a little tired and chose to pull back. Although he wished to pull back, Huang Xian's group did not give him the chance to do so. After a fight, the three of them found an opportunity. Vast and mighty Do Qi directly struck violently on the shoulder of the Do Xing skeleton. 3 waves of vast and mighty Do Qi struck onto the same spot of the skeleton at the same time. The strength could split the mountain and burn the sea. Crack! The Do Xing skeleton was indeed extremely hard. However, it was also unable to endure this kind of all-out destruction. Immediately, a crack sound appeared. Old Ghost Jiaxing grabbed firmly on the Do Xing bones. Its left hand had actually directly being broken by Huang Feng and the 2 others. Bastard! The bone in Old Ghost Jiaxing's hand was flung off. His face was green as he grabbed onto the jade white broken arm and roared furiously. His body flashed and flew towards the skeleton that had been flung off. However, his body had yet to reach it when a young figure appeared earlier than him. It grabbed the Do Xing skeleton with a broken left arm in his hands. Xiao Yan, you are seeking death. Old Ghost Jiaxing immediately became furious when he saw the skeleton being obtained by Xiao Yang. Xiao Yang ignored Old Ghost Jiaxing's roar. His gaze swept over the place, and other than Tang Zhen, both Huang Xian and Bing He Zunja had also charged over with killing intent on their faces. Purple-brown flame hurriedly lingered within his palm. He grabbed the 3 ribs with strange hidden characters from the skeleton's stomach. After which, he pulled violently with all his strength. Crack! The Do Xing skeleton was extremely hard. Xiao Yang had used all of his strength in order to barely break the 3 somewhat weak ribs. A coolness spread over Xiao Yang's hands when the ribs landed in it. They appeared just like the best quality jade. His eyes swiftly glanced over, only to see unusual characters covering the ribs. An extremely faint luster flickered from these characters. At a glance, they appeared alive and were slowly wiggling. Xiao Yang did not observe them carefully at this moment. He kept them into his storage ring almost immediately. At the same time, his heart was also pounding intensely because of the excitement. Regardless of what happened, he had obtained this precious object. Since he had already obtained it, everyone could forget about getting him to spit it out today. The Qian class Do technique belonged to Xiao Yang. After keeping the 3 ribs into his storage ring, Xiao Yang did his best to suppress his rapidly beating heartbeat. He raised his eyes, only to see Old Ghost Jiaxing, Huang Xian, and Bing He Zunja rushing over with churning killing intent. Xiao Yang, hand over the Do Xing skeleton. Old Ghost Jiaxing roared furiously. His body suddenly quickened, and his large hand grabbed violently towards Xiao Yang across the space. The space around the latter's body immediately collapsed, forming a concave spatial prison. Since you want it, I'll give it to you. The purple-brown flame around Xiao Yang's body surged out. It directly shook aside the collapsed space. His toes pressed on the empty air as his body swiftly withdrew. At the same time, the Do Xing skeleton, which he was grabbing in his hand, was directly tossed towards Old Ghost Jiaxing in front of many startled eyes. Old Ghost Jiaxing was startled when he saw that Xiao Yang had actually really handed the Do Xing skeleton over. However, he did not hesitate much. He grabbed with his hand and once again held the Do Xing skeleton in his hand. Old Ghost, swallowing all the food alone is not good behavior. 2 cold cries suddenly resounded beside Old Ghost Jiaxing's ears when his hand grabbed the Do Xing skeleton. Immediately, 2 large hands were extended over from behind with lightning-like speed and grabbed on the bone. After which, they pulled with a sudden force. Crack! Under the pulling force from such a terrifying strength, the Do Xing skeleton immediately emitted a crack sound. Its entire body trembled slightly. This is something that my Hall of Soul needs. The both of you actually dares to intervene. Old Ghost Jiaxing's face was green. His single arm firmly grabbed onto the skeleton. Do Qi was circulated in a crazy manner within his body as he transferred waves after waves of powerful strength into his hand. His mouth also let out a furious cry at the same time. Humph, other people might be afraid of your Hall of Soul, but my Heaven Demon Phoenix tribe isn't. Huang Xian merely laughed coldly in the face of the threatening words of old Ghost Jiaxing. The strength on his arm was increased instead of reduced. Even the space itself, where his hand was grabbing at, formed some tiny dark black crack lines. Bing Hezunja's eyes flickered. His expression was dark and cold, and he similarly ignored old Ghost Jiaxing. The Hall of Soul was indeed large, but a person died for wealth and a bird died because of food. What did it matter if they had to offend this faction in order to obtain this Doxing skeleton? Should he really obtain this thing and glimpse the secret to advance to a Doxing, even the Hall of Soul would not dare to do anything to him. Creak creak. The three of them stood in the mid-air. Their hands were firmly grabbed onto the skeleton. Green veins bulged on their arms, appearing just like earthworm as they pulsed repeatedly. With them pulling this forcefully, some of the joints of the skeleton had also gradually become loose. He, since everyone refuses to let go, the old me shall come and lend all of you a hand. Tang Zhen's figure had also flashed and appeared when all three of them refused to let go. His large hand grabbed on one side of the skeleton, and he let out a loud cry. A frightening force also suddenly erupted from his hand. Crack! 4 experts, with the strength of 4 or 5-star Dozuns, used all of their strength at the same time. This Doxing skeleton was finally unable to endure any longer. It emitted a bang in front of many stunned gazes. The 4 people flew backwards and the jade-white skeleton directly scattered apart. It turned into many bone fragments that scattered down from the sky. Damn you! Old Ghost Jiaxing's face became green when he saw the skeleton being destroyed. He lowered his head and saw the skull in his hand. The corner of his mouth twitched. His mission this time around was to bring the complete Doxing skeleton back. However, all he had obtained was a skull and an arm. Doxing skeleton. Quick, snatch. The many Doxing bones scattered down from the sky. Finally, they were thrown onto the square. Those experts, who had originally gave up hope, revealed a wild joy on their faces when they saw this situation. Numerous figures suddenly shot upwards, and wildly grabbed at those bones. Xiao Yan was also stunned when he saw this scene. He had only pulled off 3 weak ribs. It was unexpected that these fellows were even more vicious. They had actually pulled the skeleton until it turned into fragments. However, from the looks of old Ghost Jiaxing's appearance, it seems that he is unaware that the Doxing skeleton has a Qian-class Do technique hidden on it. Otherwise, he would not simply just leave it be. Xiao Yan glanced at old Ghost Jiaxing, who had a green face as he held a skull and an arm, while this thought appeared in his heart. That chief of the Hall of Soul might not have told him of the Qian-class Do technique secret. When assigning this mission to him, Xiao Yan blinked his eyes and involuntarily laughed within his heart. This Qian-class Do technique was hidden extremely secretively. If it was not because he was lucky to suddenly see it, it was likely that he would have difficulty imagining that it was hidden on 3 ribs on the body of the skeleton. However, these Doxing bones are also quite usefully. Since I am unable to obtain a complete one, I should at least obtain a piece of it. Xiao Yang had already personally experienced the hardness of these bones. He had merely broke 3 weakest ribs, yet he had to rely on the frighteningly hot temperature of the 3000 Lotus Heart Flame and used all of his effort. Even though this was the case, he could only break it. He had no means to shatter this thing. Xiao Yang's eyes swept over the mid-air and swiftly locked onto a relatively larger bone. From its appearance, it should be a right arm of the skeleton. This thing was harder than the other parts. Hence, it did not suffer much damage. However, Xiao Yang was not the only one targeting this bone at this moment. There were also a couple of experts, whose target was also extremely clear, as they rushed towards that arm. Xiao Yang involuntarily laughed when he saw this. His toes pressed on the empty air and silver glow flickered under his feet. Within an instant, he had taken the lead to appear beside the bone in a ghost-like fashion. He grabbed with his hand and gripped it in his hands. Kai. Xiao Yang's sudden intervention also caused the experts, who were rushing over to this arm, to experience a change in expression. They forcefully stabilized their bodies in the mid-air, and their faces were a little gloomy. However, when they thought about Xiao Yang's strength and little fairy doctor's group a short distance away, these people could only unwillingly grit their teeth and quickly turned around, rushing towards those other fallen bone fragments. Xiao Yan glanced at these people, who had quit after being aware of the difficulty. He grabbed the arm in his hand and gently weighed it. The arm was not very heavy. It was actually quite light. Only upon close inspection did Xiao Yang discover that these skeletons seemed to have some naturally formed unusual lines. There was even a fluorescence light vaguely being emitted from it, causing it to appear exceptionally mysterious. Xiao Yang looked at the bone arm. He mused for a moment before flicking his finger. A wisp of purple-brown flame surfaced on the tip of his finger. After which, he lowered the bone arm. Due to the bone being originally jade white in color, and the reflection of the firelight on it, its interior appeared to be transparent. It was possible to vaguely see a little liquid-like thing quietly flowing within the bone arm. This is Douxing essence. Xiao Yang's arm immediately trembled when he saw this extremely faint liquid. Perhaps, the mission of that old ghost Jiaxing this time around was this thing. The interior of all these bones should have. Xiao Yang suddenly turned around after sensing this. He looked at the bone fragments that scattered over the square. He suddenly waved his sleeve and a suction force surged out. Quite a number of bone fragments flew towards him. This action of Xiao Yang naturally attracted the displeasure of quite a number of experts. However, little fairy doctors group moved when they looked at Xiao Yang with furious gazes. They appeared in the mid-air and wrapped Xiao Yang around them. The appearance of this kind of powerful lineup immediately caused those fellows to dismiss the thoughts within their hearts. Xiao Yang looked at these bone fragments that were suspended in front of him. Upon careful observation, he discovered that not all of these bones possessed the kind of Douxing essence within them. After a selection, however, Xiao Yang still found 4 bone fragments that possessed some traces of liquid. After which, he carefully stored them into his storage ring. He might be able to use these things in the future. Anything left behind by an elite Douxing was a rare treasure. Xiao Yang tossed away those bone fragments that did not contain the essence of a Douxing aside. His eyes swept over the mid-air, only to discover that old ghost Jiaxing was gathering the bone fragments from all over the place with a gloomy expression. Some of the fellows, who had luckily obtained a bone fragment, had also become his target. He snatched the bones forcefully. His heart was filled with fury, and he had also killed the couple of unlucky fellows in passing. Seeing the viciousness of this old fellow, those experts on the square, who were collecting the bone fragments, also hurriedly withdrew from shock. Even after old ghost Jiaxing had chased a couple of pieces down, he was still not satisfied with his gain. Immediately, his dark and dense eyes were rotated as he looked towards Xiao Yang in the midair. Xiao Yang lifted his eyebrows when he saw old ghost Jiaxing's dense eyes looking over. His face did not contain even the slightest fear as he laughed coldly. Why? Have you not snatched enough? Hand over the bones in your hands. Old ghost Jiaxing cried out in a dark and cold voice. You should come and try. Xiao Yang smiled slightly. He flicked his finger. 3 clusters of heavenly flames slowly appeared in front of him. The color of the 3 flames shone onto the eyes of old ghost Jiaxing, causing the latter's face to become volatile. The corner of old ghost Jiaxing's mouth twitched. His fury almost overcome his reasoning. However, he eventually controlled himself. The current Xiao Yang was already an elite Douzun. Adding his companions, who also possessed quite a great strength, it was likely that he would not gain much of a benefit if he attacked. Moreover, even until now, his heart still possessed a horror towards the might of the frightening fire lotus of Xiao Yang. If he was not because he had summoned the black-white Tianzuns over at the last moment, it was likely that he would have really lost his life in Xiao Yang's hand after being caught off guard. Old ghost Jiaxing, I propose a collaboration. Do you want it? While old ghost Jiaxing was considering his chances of victory in his heart, a cold smile surfaced on Huang Xian's face a short distance away as he laughed out loud. Xiao Yang's expression immediately sunk a little when he heard this old demon opened his mouth. Were these fellows from the Heaven Demon Phoenix tribe finally unable to control themselves? What collaboration? Old ghost Jiaxing asked faintly. We will join hands and capture this brat. The Douxing skeleton will be yours. I only wish to take one thing from them. Huang Xian laughed in a dark and cold manner. The Dragon Phoenix origin fruit was far too important for the Heaven Demon Phoenix tribe. No matter what tactic they used, they must definitely obtain it today. Old ghost Jiaxing narrowed his eyes upon hearing this. A moment later, his eyes were filled with ridicule and viciousness as he looked towards Xiao Yang in the midair. He immediately nodded gently. All right, agreed. This video will end here.